What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Game Time Discussions. I'm Emery Cuzzy. I'm hanging out with Dustin Zimmerman. We are going to be finishing our draft 2026 draft prospect stuff. This one will be about the linebackers, the DBs, and we've already done all the other videos. So if you haven't seen those yet, go check those out. Like those, tell us who we got right and wrong on those. And then this is the last one, though, so it should be a fun one. You good?
Yep, I'm just upset about the guy you left off, like I texted you about.
Well, we'll talk about that here in a second. We're going to start off with linebackers, and Dustin's referring to a cornerback, so we're not going to talk about him yet.
Correct.
But the first guy we're going to talk about is Anthony Hill from Texas. Anthony Hill is everybody's favorite to be a first rounder out of all these linebackers. 15.3% missed tackle rate last year, has to come down, but truly, when you just look at him, he's all speed, all athleticism. He's one of the fastest read and react linebackers I've seen, one of the best at the linebackers position since we started this. So he goes early and often. I love to see that. He had 8 sacks this last year, so his pass rush is there and has upside for that. So I really, think he's super explosive, and there's a reason, using athleticism and his quick read and react that he will be a first rounder, possibly a top 10 pick. We've seen a couple of those in the past. He will have to obviously progress a lot to get to that point, but I think he could do that. So
yeah, I don't recall too many years when I've seen so much hype around a guy as I am around Anthony Hill this year. Especially when he was very good last year, maybe metrics wise, not so much.
Right.
Generally, when you see this much hype, it's someone who has solidified themselves, such as someone we're going to talk about later and we texted about as well. But, the last couple of years, the guy's a fantastic athlete. I have high expectations for him. He's already been the 2023 Big 12 Freshman of the Year and a second team All-American. So I am really excited to see what he can do this year and how much he can progress himself up.
Yeah, he will have to progress to be in the conversation of top 15, top 10. But yeah. I don't think, we were talking about we're doing our mock draft for the 2026 way too early. And I couldn't leave him off. Right. I had a point where I was like, okay, there's a few guys that I'm like, these guys have to kind of be in the first round. And he was one of them. And I was like, it just kept going and going and going. He wasn't getting picked. And I was like, no, we have to put him somewhere that makes sense, but he will be a first rounder, in my opinion, just because of the athleticism and things like that.
Right.
That you just can't coach. You can't teach it. Now, we've seen guys like Devin White, who it didn't work out for.
Sure.
He had that athleticism and that stuff. So it's not that, and I will say, linebackers are not a first round, you're not going to get the most out of first round linebackers most of the time. If you just look back at history, most good linebackers come out of the 3rd to 5th round. But at the same time, when you have a guy that is so physically built better than everybody else, you just kind of pick him and you hope that he can turn out to, to do the things. Jahad Campbell was a guy last year that we talked about that we really hoped could do all those things, so we'll see. Deontay Lawson out of Alabama is up next. He's a little bit older. He'll be 23.4 when the season starts next year. He's an above average athlete. He plays bigger than his overall size. In my opinion, he's 6'2", 230, and I think he actually is feels bigger than that. I think he has good feet, sideline to sideline, is pretty nice. But I saw some issues against pullers away. Doesn't keep his depth, and he just kind of runs forward. He does not he needs to slow the game down mentally for him, I think, a little bit IQ wise, but the physicality and the athleticism together is why I understand him being projected first rounder, possibly at least a top 32 player, maybe not actually getting picked in the first round, because linebackers will fall even if they're on the big board higher, just like running backs and other positions that aren't as valuable. Deontay Lawson's probably an early second rounder, in my opinion, if you were just having a today conversation.
Yeah. He had an 84.4 rush defense, which is huge. Obviously doing very well there. He was 3rd team All-SEC, according to the coaches poll on that. And this year, he's coming into the year on pretty much every national watch list regarding linebackers and defenders that you can ask about. So obviously high expectations for him and elite athleticism, similar to Anthony Hill, who we already talked about.
Mm-hmm. And then next up is one of the Texas A&M Aggies, Dustin's favorite team, Torian York. Now, this guy I really, really liked. I was, I was watching his stuff and I was like, okay, this guy's good and whatnot. And then I was like, oh, okay, like watching him really play, I was like, he's that new, smaller but high athlete type.
Yeah.
He 6 foot 235 is what it shows. That might be a stretch. I don't think he's that big, honestly.
I don't think
Um,
so either.
but he can play basically any linebacker position. He can play
Yeah.
the Joker. He can play the Sam. He can play the Will. Mike, maybe not, but like he could if he had to, right?
Yeah.
He does a good job being patient and then going when he knows, and I love that. That's that read and react that we talk about.
Yeah.
He's a good tackler. 7.4% missed tackle rate. That really shows up on film too. I thought that was good when they relate to each other, film versus stats. And then size does allow him to. The biggest problem, one of his problems, is size allows him to have players fall forward when they run. He falls backwards at times, but he's only going to be 21.1 years old when the season starts next year. So that I like to see. He always finds the ball. I really just love his upside, and I think that he will get better age-wise, talent, all those things. I know you're going to breed off some stats about him coming out of high school, but that shows why I like him so much even more. So
Yeah, he's one, and I've mentioned this, but you watch obviously much more film than I do. But as far as the A&M players, I probably have you beat on that film just because I watch every second of every game that I can possibly muster the courage to sometimes.
Right.
But if you remember, we were watching the LSU game when A&M was down and they started to make their comeback, and Torian York made some mistake. I don't remember what. And I was like, watch, he'll make up for it. And like the very next play catches a pick and gets a nice return, and which essentially led to the big comeback and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just, like you said, one of those guys, he's always around the ball. If the ball's out there, he's going to go find it. He's going to go make a play. A little bit undersized as far as the linebacker position, but we are seeing that become kind of the new norm of sorts, or
Exactly.
another breed of it.
Yeah.
Insanely talented in high school, insanely talented now, and he's trying to break the mold of the defenders we saw last year of, hey, these guys are highly touted, but then come out and make no stats, like our buddies Shamar and Scorton. So hopefully he can continue to progress, though, because he's been a guy who has made those stats.
Shamar Stewart and Nick Scorton both, though, were 5 stars, I believe, coming out of high school. I don't know if Nick Scorton was, but I know Shamar was coming out of high school.
I don't know if Scorton, Shamar definitely was.
Torian York was a 3-star, I believe.
Yeah.
That started his freshman year immediately. Like, very impressive coming out of high school. So I thought that was good. Yeah. Let's go on, though. Talk about Austin Romaine out of Kansas State. Middle linebacker build. And look, guys, I'm very much new school, where I'm like, middle linebackers are old things of the past, kind of relics. Like, you just talk about, like, I love linebackers, I love hard-nosed linebackers, but you have to be able to play outside the box. And there's some guys on this list that we're going to get into that don't have the athletic profile that I think you need to play at the NFL level anymore, if that makes sense. There's a lot more spread, there's a lot more attacking these guys and finding ways to get them in very bad situations, and their athleticism does not allow them to play at high levels. So this is one of those guys. And I think that, you look at the metrics and you're like, hey, he's got amazing metrics. Yeah. He's really good from tight end to tight end. He's going to tackle well, but as soon as you put him in space, I think he has issues. He lacks athleticism. He's great against blocks because he's a bigger guy. The old school things that you like, he does really well. But I just have a really hard time investing in him as a linebacker because it's 2025, 2026, and in this, of course, for this draft upcoming. Those guys are kind of not things we see play anymore, if that makes sense. We like the old school. We like the new school guys that are more athletic, that can play multiple positions and make tackles in space and let your defensive line just clog the inside. So, is what it is.
He kind of reminds me of the college basketball players when you're watching March Madness, and it's like, whoa, this guy's a 5th-year senior. He's leading the team. He's really good in college. In the back of your head, you're like, yeah, he's never going to touch an NBA court, but he's really fun to watch and really good in college.
Yes.
He kind of reminds me of that. Insane metrics up there. This guy's going to be a top 5 linebacker according to all the stats and metrics and stuff. But then you kind of watch and you're like, probably going to stop here at Kansas State, but it's really fun to watch this year.
Right. The next guy is Whit Weeks out of LSU, and we're going to talk about both LSU guys, but let's start with Whit Weeks and compare him to Austin Romaine because I think that he's a more polished and more ready inside Mike linebacker type. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be excited about him, because I just told you that, he's not my favorite type of linebacker, but he did have 10.4 tackles per game. He's going to be really strong against the run. He's going to stick his nose in there. He's going to be mean and powerful, but it's just when you put him, he is a liability against the pass. He doesn't have the same athleticism you need to play the pass. He's not fast or quick as a lot of the players that are, going to be ranked higher on our list than him. And we have talked about a couple, but even some of these guys that are lower are going to be higher than him just because they're more athletic. I don't love his lateral ability. Weeks was not my favorite linebacker. And it's because of the mold that he fits into that is a college mold. Like you're saying with these basketball players, he is a college mold of middle linebacker. If you put Whit Weeks in the middle of the line of the formation, you might be able to play the run with 5 guys. And he makes that possible. In the NFL, you can't do that, basically, is how I'm getting at it. So, but his teammate, Harold Perkins, I do like. And it's really hard, though, because he did tear his ACL. He was a guy that we had on our video last year that I thought was going to come out. Didn't get to come out. But he's one of the fastest and best reacting linebackers in the class. And if he comes back to form, his coverage ability, his pass rush ability, and his ability in space will make him one of the top linebackers, rivaling a Anthony Hill, even if that's a possibility for him to come back. But he's a little bit smaller, and that's the biggest problem I had with him originally is just like he is very small. He's more of like a Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, a smaller guy that will have to play outside the box and make plays and in coverage, which he was a good coverage linebacker, so we like to see that. But it's just like he's going to be basically a big nickel or an edge rusher to the boundary, in my opinion. I don't ever think he can play Mike, so that's how I feel about him.
Yeah, I really like your analysis and the compare and contrast you did with both of them. Whit Weeks being your more traditional style, Perkins being your more athletic one. And we talked about Perkins a lot. We've talked about him for the last couple of years, in fact, because we've been excited to watch him play because he's super fun to watch. We've talked about ACL tears and my opinion on him just being that I never know. It's a coin flip these days, though. It used to be, you tore an ACL. Well, hopefully you can come back and get a year or two, just not as good as you were and be able to play again. But now it's you might come back and be just the guy you were before to, take a few games to step back up to that level. You're not immediately going to jump back in, but not lose a step once you're, reintegrated and whatnot. So I'm excited for Perkins. I want to see what he can do. And then with Whit Weeks, he is essentially my definition of a gamer on defense. I don't understand some of the plays he makes. And then in coverage, I'm like, well, yep, it's gone. But the effort is there. And that's what truly makes a gamer here.
Yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying with Whit Weeks. It's just the mold doesn't fit how I feel about him, if that makes sense.
No.
I want him to
agree.
He won't be an NFL player in my personal opinion. So Riley Leonard was a gamer. We don't think he's going to play in the NFL very much.
Yeah, but he's a gamer, and that's what matters. Fair. The essence of college football.
Enjoy betting on him, right? I get that.
Yeah, but I wouldn't.
Next guy,
I wouldn't.
Fair. Because you know better, but it's fun.
Correct.
The next guy, CJ Allen out of Georgia, sat behind multiple draft players because Georgia just puts one after another out on their team. Smile Munden Jr. and Jalen Walker, both from last year, one of the best in moving towards the line of scrimmage. 89.8 run grade, takes on blocks well, strong at the point of attack. I've actually seen a lot of people think that CJ Allen could be in that number one conversation of like the linebacker position, and I'm just not there. Now, that doesn't mean I don't like him. I just think he's being overhyped. That's a big difference, right? Because I actually don't think he's got that huge athleticism. He kind of reminds me of Edrin Cooper, but he doesn't have that like explosiveness that I saw with Edrin. Because I really liked Edrin, and we talked about him because he was an A&M guy. He needs to be more productive, of course, but that's also comes with being on the field. He is actually built like a bulldog. Like if you think of a bulldog, like that's his build. The stocky, no neck, big, like rolls his shoulders over kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think he has a lot of upside, but I just want to see him as a starter. And I'm not sold that he is athletically gifted. Like somebody said that he's Roquan Smith 2.0, and I was like, you are absolutely insane to say something like that. So
Mhm.
that's my thought on him.
Yeah, I want to see what he can do as far as carrying on the lineage of Georgia linebackers and what Kirby Smart can develop him into. I'm putting absolutely nothing past Kirby Smart with what he's done the last however many,
Sure.
7-8 years, if whatever number you want to throw out there that he's been at
Right,
Georgia.
right.
And with the level of talent that has come through the linebacker position, both in recruiting and in development.
Right.
Like you said, really good against the run defense, not so good against coverage though. So got to see him step up.
Yep. Next guy, Drake Bowen out of Notre Dame. Typical Mike linebacker. Here you go. We're going to keep going on it. Not a great athlete. High motor and really good tackler. 5.7% missed tackle rate is really impressive. Should take over the Jack Kaiser role, but Jack Kaiser was a better athlete, if you ask me. And so we're going to have to see if he can really build into that role. Jack Kaiser was a much older player, so he's been behind him. But I'm not going to help. He's not going to help you in the pass game. It just is what it is. And I don't love the liability against the pass or the fact that he has to be taken off the field because he can't be out there when you're throwing the ball.
Yep.
So if you're going to be one of the best players in this draft class, you have to be able to do everything, and he just can't do everything right now. So that's my biggest problem with him. What's next? Oh, sorry. Yeah, Bryce Betcher out of Oregon. I like this guy a lot. Funny enough, I really do, and I love his story. I actually have him higher than probably most boards will. If you just look at where we're at, he's in the same range as C.J. Allen, and they are talking about C.J. Allen being the number one linebacker, and Betcher is in that same range to me. He was originally a walk-on. He actually won the Burlsworth Trophy, which is for the best walk-on. He's 23.9 years old, so he's a little bit older. He's another middle linebacker type, but I actually think he's more athletic. And I actually found that he had some athleticism with that. He's insanely high effort, which is always good to see. And he brings the energy. I just thought Bobby Boucher, with this guy. That's kind of what I thought of. He is the Bobby Boucher for Oregon's defense. That's what keeps it running.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that he's going to make all those plays, but
sure.
Here's how I kind of justify my thoughts on him being a typical middle linebacker type, but good. He's got a coverage grade of 84.4. He's got a pass rush grade of 84.5. That means that he's actually capable of doing those things.
Yep.
I actually really like what he brings as a football player. Issues, sure, would be his athleticism, but he makes up for that with effort and preparation mentally, knowing where to go and things like that. So I think that, he could be a starter at the NFL level. I don't know that he's an all-pro by any means, but I think he could be drafted and become a starter if he's drafted in the 4th, 5th round.
Yeah, I found it really interesting when I was looking up these players, the level of baseball talent in the linebacker position. Because Drake Bowen's on the Notre Dame baseball team, and at one point he was the 8th best prospect in the state for baseball.
Wow, good to know.
And here, Mr. Betcher was in the most recent MLB draft, and they didn't know if he was coming back to school this year because he was in the 13th round, picked by the Astros. But he's choosing to play football instead of baseball.
Crazy.
So
That's
he
crazy.
quite literally went from potentially not being in football this year to now on the list for top prospects.
Right. The next guy is Kyle Lewis out of Pittsburgh. He is in the other category where you're a smaller but fast guy, 6 foot 225. He's that new style linebacker, basically a safety. But the problem is he might be too small. He might not be able to play at an NFL level at 6 foot 225. I think he's smaller than that. If you go look a picture of him, and if anybody wants to, go ahead. He is skinny. I like his athletic awareness and upside. In the NFL, he'll probably have to be a situational linebacker, though, like a third down linebacker where you come in and you play the nickel, or you play, maybe you go in at Mike and you basically are a drop guy. I think he has a hard time taking on blocks. Pitt has 2 undersized linebackers right now that are both draft eligible in Rasheem Biles and Kyle Lewis. And unfortunately, I had really high hopes for Lewis, but I don't know how well we can actually see him translate to the NFL with his style and size. I know I've said I like this style, but it's more of the style plus the ability like combo, not just like, hey, this guy, we said he was a safety at one point and we moved him to linebacker just because he was one of our better players. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's got a ton of accolades. Was on multiple All-American teams, first team, second team. Was the College Football Network ACC Linebacker of the Year,
Mm-hmm.
All ACC first team. But like you said, and kind of what we mentioned earlier, he's one of those guys, real fun, good in college. I'm cautiously optimistic on if he can translate to the NFL. But unless he gets some more size on him, I don't see how he'd be anything more
He
than
is little.
situational. Yeah.
He is very little. He is little.
Yeah, he doesn't even look like a linebacker quote. Like
No,
if you
no, no.
saw him,
He
you
is a
would not guess
safety
linebacker. Yeah,
or a
that's what I
receiver
was
to
thinking.
me. I think
Right?
he's a
Yeah,
receiver like type.
yeah. Exactly.
It's that small. Let's go over to our dark horse linebacker, and it's a guy that I hope everybody knows this name. If you don't, you will. This is Sonny Styles out of Ohio State. He is position. He was an ex safety, moved to linebacker, so we know he has that athleticism. That's good to see. But
Yep.
guys, I want to explain to you that this man is 6'4", 240.
Yep.
Played safety and moved down. He is massive.
Yeah.
He's massive, not just for a safety position, but an outside linebacker position that he plays. 18.4% missed tackle rate. This can be fixed, and it has to be fixed. So that is his biggest issue. But he is an insane athlete, fast and quick, really good pass rusher and blitzer. If you go watch the Texas game against Cam Williams, who is in the NFL now, got picked. Speed dips him and just runs past him like it's nothing.
No.
He won't have the insane defense around him anymore, so it gives him more opportunities to make plays. He's solid in coverage, great length. Like he's kind of great at everything. And right now, he is number 2 ranked linebacker in the class, and I almost put him number 1
Yep.
over an Anthony Hill. It was really hard to decide to like not put him over Anthony Hill, but he looks like a 5-star that hasn't put it all together consistently, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when he does this year, he will be the number 1 linebacker in my opinion.
Yeah, I can definitely look past his missed tackle rate when you consider it's his first year ever playing linebacker. He's been a safety his whole career, and now they're just like, "Yep, go linebacker," and you're also the biggest one we've seen in years. So
freak.
Enjoy
he is
that.
a freak of nature.
But freak. I mean, if he does put it together, you're talking about a guy with size that just makes no sense at that position, but with the skill that allows it to happen. Like created player.
I mean, I've seen plenty of 6'4", 240 linebackers.
Yeah.
They just play middle linebacker. They don't play athlete. They don't. Right. They don't make you like allow him to line up at edge rusher, Sam, Will, Mike. It doesn't like you just can't see that. You know, at 6'4", 235, 240. Like this guy is legit athlete, and now playing a position where he can use that athleticism to be better than everybody else at the position. You know?
Exactly.
And like taking on blockers, like he doesn't even have to. He's so athletic, he can just move around them, you know, and dip and rip and get around them even on the run plays. So he's legit, and I'm very excited to see what happens with him. Let's go over to the cornerbacks. This is where Dustin's going to get mad at me, which is fine. My next cornerback that I was going to watch was Will Lee, the blanket out of Texas A&M. I did not get to him, so I can't watch everybody, guys. I'd love to. I'd absolutely love to. Believe me. I'd be way more adept into knowing who was like these really, really small school guys. Eric Rivers out of Georgia Tech. You know, these guys that could be like serious guys that go up in drafts, but I just can't watch everybody. But I did watch Jermod McCoy from Tennessee, and holy crap. Okay, I'm just going to preface this, guys. This is an injured player. He tore his ACL at the end of the year. And he might not be in the class. Like he might not make it to the 2026 draft. He might be a 2027 guy. But if he was healthy and he's good to go, he is a top 10 player. He's a top 10 player in this draft. And he will go top 10. There are plenty of teams that need corner. He has elite athletic upside. Press man cornerback. Played 31% man. Just so impressive in man. Put his body in good positions, looked and found the ball. He's physical. He's athletic. He can run. He's quick. He's good in zone because he's just so explosive. Like this is a guy that, you know, will be a top 15 player on our big board, no matter what, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you had texted me about him. We were talking about him. Guy's an insane athlete, high motor, good stats on him. He's 6 foot 193, so he's a big guy, a little bit above average as far as height too for the cornerback position. Um, it's all just going to hinge on how he recovers, how well he
he's
does.
legit.
If he recovers well, then yeah, he's a top 15 draft pick. If he doesn't, we might see a situation where he has to decide: is it worth testing it for another year in college? And I think the most interesting part of that conversation is NIL nowadays too.
Yeah.
People are getting insane NIL contracts that are making them debate: do I go back to college for another year? Is it worth it? And that's still so new as far as in the last 20 years. The small percentage have really tested those waters.
Oh, it's definitely
Just
worth
over
it
the
with
last
this,
couple.
going back nowadays. Like,
Well,
and
especially
making,
Tennessee,
yeah, for sure, making that
they
money.
they
But
will do it. They will
if you're a
throw.
top 10 draft pick, like, go, like, that kind of thing
Well,
too.
right.
You know what
It's
I mean?
definitely depending on where you're at.
Right.
And real quick, I wonder if they'll ever do a situation like how college basketball now you're allowed to enter the draft talks and get an agent and everything,
And
and
go
then
back.
withdraw if you
Yeah.
don't get good information. I'm waiting for that to happen with football because of NIL and the money
I think it's
being
fair
the big
because now it's
decision.
a business. Everything
Yeah,
should be a business. So
yeah,
I'm with you.
yeah.
The next guy is Avion Terrell out of Clemson. He's the brother of AJ Terrell, who plays for the Falcons. Playing for Clemson, a lot of players are going to be pushed up draft boards, and that just is what it is. They're going to be winning a lot of games. They're playing the ACC. They're going to be a top 4 team, no matter what. To me, I will bet so much money on it. Basically,
Yep.
I like that he's a willing tackler. He's not going to lower the boom, but he will give effort, and I think that that's good. Solid in man. That's really what he's made on is his man coverage. But he didn't play press that much. He's overall one of the best cornerbacks in the class with athletic upside. But I just didn't love. They didn't put him in situations where like he used the things that they're going to want him to use in the NFL. Of course, the NFL uses the same coverages. Don't get me wrong, but if they can't play press man, if you cannot play press man, that takes away so many play calls for the defensive coordinators. Basically, is what I'm getting.
Yep.
I thought he had some really solid plays and wasn't really ever just beaten. Creates turnovers, and that's always a absolute insane plus to me. He had 3 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles. I love to see that. I love guys that go and get the ball. So Avion Terrell is solid. He's not like, how do I put this? He's not my favorite corner ever, and I don't think that I'm really on board that he's a top 15 guy. I think he's a first rounder, but probably closer to the end of the first round, in my personal opinion, right now.
Yeah, like you said, brother's already in the NFL, so it's in his genes. He was 2024 All ACC. He also ran track in high school, so he's got the athleticism covered. We're not worried about that. First round draft pick, completely agree. Hopefully he can step up though and kind of earn that position on top,
Sure.
like he already has, but more than just because he's a Clemson cornerback.
Right.
Really separate himself.
Yeah, and then the next guy, Malik Muhammad out of Texas, surrounded by one of the best secondaries in football last season. Just he needs to step up and become the guy. One of the highest zone cornerbacks in this last season, and that's just because you look at the rest of their defense. Jahdae Barron out there on the other side, he is a zone corner. He's not a man corner, so they had to leave him in zone a lot. He does not like tackling, and I hate to see that, honestly. Didn't record a single interception in 2024, doesn't like tackling, and he looks way more comfortable in zone. All of those things are red flags in my personal opinion. Not like, they kill your stock, but we shouldn't be talking about him as a first rounder in my personal opinion. He's actually right now cornerback 7 to us, which is not where anybody else has him. They actually have him at cornerback 3. That's what we're talking about in these orders. So I think that the athletic upside is there, but I need to see him do a lot of things before I'm like, hey, this guy should be in the top 20 picks, and I just can't get there right now. So that's kind of where I'm at with him. So.
This is a team where Texas has according to PFF at least, the best secondary returning from last year, and they already had an elite secondary last year. So it's going to be hard for him to not push himself up unless he becomes the one liability that's projected out there, which I just don't see happening.
The problem is they lost 2 of their best secondary players. Jahdae Barron's gone, and Andrew Makupa's gone. So he has to step up and be the guy because they don't have any other guys. I mean, Michael Taft, we'll talk about him in a minute, but you know what I mean? Like they don't have these other guys everywhere like they did last year. Now, there's going to be other guys that will step up that are backups from last year,
Sure.
but they're not there yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it'll be make or break for him. He can either prove he's earned that moniker of being part of the best secondary or get exposed and it turns out really poorly.
Yeah. Next up is AJ Harris out of Penn State. I love AJ Harris. I mean, legit.
Pretty sure you love everyone at Penn State.
Oh no, I don't know about all that. Let's settle down. I love the
Not
athleticism
the coach, sorry.
coming from. Yeah, screw that guy. No, just kidding. No, but AJ Harris was willing to play the nickel. He actually caught an interception for a touchdown against Illinois out of the nickel. Good instincts in zone. Man is where he shines, both press and off man. Also in the nickel. Like, this dude will do anything. He doesn't care. He'll go play any type of way. I love go-getters like this. Like, top-notch tackler, like, comes screaming down. Just wants to kill people. It's awesome. Penn State does a good job of tackling in the secondary. They just do. I think AJ is one of my guys that I'm like my guys, that's going to jump. I know he's probably on most boards in the top 40, but I think he could be a top 10 pick. He's not top 10 on our current mock draft, but he is a guy that I think could vault himself into a top 10 pick because I think he is that legit. And he's not the only one on the screen that I think is that legit.
So, do you want to tease that? Go ahead and say who else?
The next guy, Chandler Rivers out of Duke. No, Chandler Rivers is awesome. No, okay. If I'm just talking about guys that I think are fun to watch, AJ Harris, Chandler Rivers, Jermod McCoy, those guys on this list right here. I'm just like, I want those types of players on my team. 3-year starter, another guy that's willing to tackle, can take on blocks, shed, and find the ball. 5 turnovers opportunities last year, 3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles. Good to see. He's aggressive. He plays. He's asked to blitz a good amount. Plays out of the nickel. Is a bully on the line, off the line of scrimmage. Very natural in zone coverage. 90.2 zone coverage grade. Great to see, especially when you can do man. Right. Highly instinctive player. I just think this is the word. Right. Scrappy. I just love scrappy players, and Chandler Rivers is so scrappy. I think he's a first rounder to me right now. He will be in our first round. That dude is just a stud, and he could move up. I have had question marks. Like, right now, to me, if I just had to rank everybody, Chandler Rivers is above Avion Terrell, who is kind of a consensus top 15, 20 player. And I'm just like, hey, Chandler Rivers is that good. Like, let's just not overlook this guy. If I could have 10 dark horses at this, or, multiple dark horses at this position, I would have both these guys on there. But the problem is they're ranked in the top 40. Like, a true dark horse is much lower than that. These are my favorite guys to possibly be the number 1 corner, though, because Jermod McCoy might not play or might not go to the draft. And then these other 2 guys, they're going to jump over. They're going to jump Avion Terrell and Malik Muhammad if they play like they did last year.
Yeah, Chandler Rivers is super cool, being that he's 3rd overall on PFF last year, and he's got 31 pass rush attempts, which is already like 8th most, and still had a 90.9 pass rush rating on top of his 89.8 coverage rating.
He had like 3 sacks or 2 sacks. I mean,
guys
he got home.
No, he's all over the place. He had 3 picks, 2 forced fumbles, and 8 pass deflections.
Why not, right?
I mean, he's 5'10", 185, so very slightly undersized.
He plays out of the nickel a lot, so it kind of makes sense. And I think that could be his best position at the NFL level. But we've talked about how important the nickel is in this room.
It's my favorite position.
Absolutely, right? The dime is mine, right?
That's fair.
Next up is D'Angelo Pons out of Indiana, freshman All-American at JMU, 89.7% out of zone this last year. I like seeing more man because that's what, you need to be able to do at the NFL level, 30% of the time, and you can't be a liability. Really good click and close, so I thought that was good, but his size is an issue. People really like him. People want to push him up boards, kind of like I'm going to say about Chandler Rivers. He's 5'9", 170. He's 10, 15 pounds lighter and an inch shorter, and he's an outside corner. But to me, he's just the all coverage corner. Anything coverage you ask him to do, he does. That's kind of what I'm like. He's not going to help you as a run defender. He can't take on blocks. He has a lot of quick twitch muscles, and he plays corner as a coverage guy. And you have to cover him up. But if you want a coverage guy, D'Angelo Pons is really good at it.
Yeah, I mean, he did well when he was at James Madison with 2 picks and 12 pass deflections, and then his 1 year at Indiana so far, 3 picks with 9 pass deflections. So clearly
Right.
doing quite well out there in coverage. But like you said, he's just undersized. I said Chandler Rivers is slightly undersized. This guy's undersized.
Yeah, he's even smaller.
Yeah.
So let's jump to the next one. Oh, there we go. More corners. Mansur Delane out of LSU. He's leaving Virginia Tech to go to LSU,
Mm-hmm.
and Delane could have come out last season, but I'm glad he didn't. He's a 3-year starter at Virginia Tech, transferring to LSU. Physical press man, tools, 6'1", long arms. 38.3% of the time he played man, so he can do it. Biggest issues is consistency. He has some of the worst grades and metrics of any player on this list, and he has to bring those things up. So Delane could vault his stock, but he also may just stay put and be a late day 2, early day 3 player.
Yeah.
That's also possible. He is going to a team though that is most likely going to do pretty well this season and is a dark horse to a lot of people to make the playoffs. So we'll see.
Yeah, he's kind of an enigma considering he was third team All ACC with third in the league in interceptions with 4 of them, and then sixth in pass defended with 11.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at his coverage rating, and you're expecting a high number, and it's 66 per
No, it's
PFF.
awful. Yeah.
It's like, how are you doing so good some of the time, and then just absolutely losing it other times?
Right.
That
Absolutely.
being said, he's going to have a lot more help going from Virginia Tech to LSU. Whether LSU has a much better season or not, I can guarantee you their defense is going to be better than what he was playing with.
Fair. And that's why we can't count him out, right?
Right.
The next guy is Jair Hill out of Michigan. Love his height and movement skills. 6'2", still quick and fast. Michigan ran a lot of zone last season, so Hill and Johnson, Will Johnson, were capable in both, but probably better man defenders, both of them, in my opinion. Hill shows a lot of patience, not going to be a tackler. He's not. It is what it is. He has bad eyes in zone at times, so he needs to get better at that, but he just needs to play another season, I think. I think that's going to be his biggest thing.
Yeah.
I think he was a dark horse candidate, but I just thought that the guy that we picked was more man heavy and more interesting and was farther down lists and could make one of those crazy jumps that you love to see. So.
Yeah, being 6'2" and then still having a 77.3 coverage rating is pretty fantastic given that size. And then in high school, he also did relays in the long jump. So I am not surprised whatsoever that he's that athletic at that height.
Yeah, exactly.
It tracks. So
very athletic guy, yes.
Yeah.
The next guy is DJ Harvey out of USC. He's transferring up from San Jose State. He's a zone menace. He's absolute zone menace. Good eyes, feet, attacks the ball in the air, good feel for routes, capable of playing both deep and underneath zones. But he's not a tackler. He's 5'11", 175. And he feels like a typical USC corner to me. I've been against a lot of them, but Harvey has a season in a new scheme to impress. Hopefully he will. I liked the film I saw from San Jose State. I just need more tackling. I need more man coverage, things we keep talking about. The things you need to be good at for me to really like you, he has to do more of. And so we'll see if he can do those things.
Yeah, he's one I want to be high on with a 90.3 coverage rating last year. I just don't know considering he was at San Jose State. And one of the best receivers he would have played against, he played with, and Nick Nash. So it's not like he was ever, aside from in practice, getting reps against guys of that level for that rating. So I really need to see what he can do at USC first.
They played Kyle Williams because they played Washington State. So they played him. I don't know who else they played, though. That's probably it.
That was the best team they played, and his coverage rating that game was 74.4, but his tackling was only a 38.7.
Because he's not a good tackler. Exactly.
Right.
So we have to see that. We have to see that happen.
Yeah, we got to improve that and make sure he can be consistent with the coverage against elite talent.
The next guy, Domani Jackson from Alabama, is the opposite to me. Physical style cornerback. Not going to let you have any space. Strong at the catch point, pressure cornerback. You know what I mean? You go up, he is one of those guys that's going to push you over to the sideline, full body in your face type of thing.
Yeah.
He's 6'1", 197, sorry. Willing tackler, lacks some athleticism, but He's basically a safety at cornerback if you just like kind of look at it like size wise and everything. I really like his play, but he is hard to grade because I think his athleticism could be an issue. He was a dark horse candidate. I liked his type of play. So you'll see who the dark horse is, and you'll be able to tell me if you think it's a good one or a bad
one. Yeah, Damani Jackson is interesting because he came into college with so much hype. Was I'm fairly certain consensus 5-star. Actually, never mind. I do have it in front of me. He was a consensus because he was the number 1 cornerback in the country and the number 5 player just overall in that 2022 loaded class. And then he comes to college, and even now when I hear his name, I'm like, oh yeah, Damani Jackson, I'm excited. But then his film just doesn't back it up, or it hasn't to that level. And I think part of it is hard when you've got that much expectations and hype coming into it. So
agreed.
But I think, the athleticism he didn't catch up or continue to progress with that high school to college jump that you kind of have to see, similar to how we talk about the college to NFL jump earlier.
Mm-hmm. The next guy is Josh Moten out of Southern Miss. He's a transfer from Marshall. He was trying to transfer to a big school and then never got that offer. So going to Marshall instead, or going to Southern Miss instead. He's the all coverage all the time player. 91.5 coverage grade. Plays both inside and outside nickel or outside corner. Flashes of just straight brilliance by this guy. 5 interceptions. Really baits the quarterback into throwing the ball his way, which, he also gets beat because of it. He also gave up 5 touchdowns. So it's he's the big play type of guy. I just wish he would have gone to a bigger school, but I love his coverage skills, and he could be a sleeper of like, hey, this guy gets picked in the 3rd round, 4th round, and you're like, hey, that guy's really good. He just didn't go to the Alabama or one of those schools. So I think that there's a lot of upside with him, but I couldn't put him as a dark horse really because like I just don't know if he can actually get to a ceiling of top, 1st rounder. You know what I mean?
Sure. No, that definitely makes sense. And maybe he just doesn't like the big school atmosphere. He's experienced it once, if you remember who his first team was.
Yes, we didn't talk about them. No, I'm just kidding.
Unfortunately.
This is your A&M guy, right?
A&M loses another good one. So he had a whole 1 tackle while at A&M and just never touched the field because of these loaded classes we brought in that all left. And then he goes to Marshall and shows out. And I mean, did we not offer him to come back? I don't understand what happened here. Why didn't we try again? Obviously he made it work.
Yeah, he's a pretty good football player, and coverage ability is very high.
Yeah.
There's one guy left on this list. It's not Willie, unfortunately, the blanket. It is going to be our dark horse, DJ McKinney. Now, I think this one is more surprising to a lot of people because I am very low on Colorado every year, and I voice myself, whatever. But
I think we all agree on that one.
Sure, because they get a lot of hype that maybe is less deserving because of their coach and their ex-quarterback and ex-Heisman player. Right. DJ McKinney, though, has to step up and be the main guy now that Travis Hunter is gone. Love the size and coverage style. 6'2", 190, press man corner. True press man corner. Good length, physical, stays and gets in phase. Like if he's not in phase, he finds phase. If y'all know what in phase means? It means you're close enough to the receiver to be able to look for the ball. Okay. I hope y'all know what in phase means. I'm thinking if you watch this you probably do. Played a lot in press. He played 51.9% of his plays in man. And one of the best parts about him, and when you really think about it, is he does have that coach. He does have Dion coaching him. He does have the upside already athletically and size and the style. But then he also has Dion teaching him how to be the best cornerback possible. Yeah. And I just like that part of it. I think he's comfortable on an island. He doesn't get shook. Those types of things. I think DJ McKinney, if he gets his opportunities, he could be a top, let's say, 1st rounder. I think he could slip into the 1st round.
Yep, I think that's a fair assessment of his projection. Just to add on to what you're saying about him, learning from Deion Sanders, he also got to practice every single day and playing games with the number 1 cornerback prospect last year in Travis Hunter, like you mentioned. Guy came from Oklahoma State, was a high-ranking transfer to Colorado when they brought in a bunch last year and got to play there. And then he also played basketball and track and field in high school. So he's got the elite athleticism to do a lot of different things.
Definitely a good athlete here.
Yeah.
Let's go over to the safeties. Let's finish it out. Actually, let's just be honest, guys. The best football player that might have ever been watched by me while this podcast was going on is Caleb Downs out of Ohio State. He is legit. And I went into it being like, oh, Caleb Downs, let's figure out why he's overhyped. Because, you know, the number one player, you have to be a little bit overhyped in some way, right? He's not. He's legit. He's not. No. He's really not. 10.5% miss tackle rate. His versatility has with no fall off. He can play any position in the box, high, nickel, no fall off. He's just as good or better, you know, like better than everybody else at every position. Is willing and insanely good tackling in open space. But I love the fact that he does not allow you to get to open space. He's running the alley and making plays before you get to a point where you can cut. He's tackling you when you catch the ball. He's just possibly the best I've seen run the alley. He has so much conviction when he runs it. He's just like, the ball's there. I'm going. I'm like, okay, possibly the best I've ever seen do it. Like, honestly, he's just a go guy. He reads who reacts. He's the run faster than any safety I've seen to close space. And he makes tackles look so effortless and easy. As a box defender, is everything you ask for a normal linebacker to be. Great eyes, reads, reacts, playmaker. In coverage, he can erase tight ends and run with any slot receiver or wide receiver you have. Really good zone instincts, you know, because normally safeties play zone. Goes with a purpose. Yeah, Andy's a good punt returner. Like, there's just no one. He is the best player I have ever seen I've seen on film since starting this podcast. That's 3 years. Like, best player I've seen on film, and he's just legit. So that's Caleb Downs, number one player in this class.
Yeah, we had already talked about him and watched him all last year, and Emery had texted us in our group about Caleb Downs, and then we were playing video games or doing something else another day, and he was like, "Hey, did you see my text about Caleb Downs?" Because he was so excited to rave about how good.
No one said anything either. Y'all didn't even like the message, and I was like, "Guys, y'all are kidding, right?"
I saw it. I meant to hit it. I was at work and got busy, but. And then I later texted you, yes, he's my favorite player in college football. Like, the guy's insanely talented. And he's also
talented player
ever. Target number one in Alabama because he left them after 1 year doing really well there. And they were all like, why are you leaving?
And then I have better opportunities to win national championships.
Absolutely balls out and wins a natty to the team he goes to.
Next up, we'll get off of that, is Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon. Overall regression from 2023 to 2024, 6 interceptions in 2023, 0 in 2024. Purdue was not good. I don't know if y'all knew that. Yeah. We've said it a couple times. They're not good.
I think they know.
I hope so. In 2023, he played 702 snaps at free safety or deep coverage. In 2024, he played 450 snaps at free safety. He is much better at deep coverage. At 6'2", like 210, like this dude is better not being close to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And then moving towards the ball when he diagnoses what's happening. Transferring to Oregon from Purdue, as you can see, it says Oregon on there. Physical and built strong. Helps him in tackling, helps him with the ball in the air. He's a very big physical guy. Not going to be a man coverage player, but he's best in his deep zone, going up, finding the ball, running sideline to sideline. I actually really like Dylan. I want to see him play in Oregon's defense before I'm like, this guy is a first rounder, because I think he's really good. But I also know that safeties do not get love for being first round players. So we will see. Just like Caleb Downs isn't going to go number one overall, even though he probably deserves it.
Yeah. Thieneman, we talked about him when we were talking about the transfers because he was number 1 or number 2. I can't remember what their ranking was for transfers for safeties. Yeah. Poor Purdue. That's what this comes down to more than anything.
Yeah, man.
They were already having a really hard time last year, and then they lose anything that was slightly positive.
Yeah,
this year.
everybody left. The whole team left.
Yeah, their top tight end, top obviously Thieneman, and to finish on him,
Every role
hopefully.
player they had. No, every role player they had. If you go look at their like defense, like all
Yeah,
their role players are gone. It's
yeah.
bad.
Take the
So,
under. Whatever you think the win
yeah,
total is, take the under.
Purdue L. Yeah, 1. Michael Taff out of Texas is next. Westlake, Westlake High School. We played them in high school. He was a walk-on and at UT, bet on himself from the Austin area. One of the best coverage safeties in the class. He's asked to be a true safety. Like, the deepest guy, you are the last line of defense. That is who he is.
Yep.
He was only targeted 26 total times this last season. Texas played a lot of zone coverage. We talked about that with Malik Muhammad. Texas allowed him to not have to play close to the line of scrimmage on purpose. 73% of his snaps were at deep coverage. That's a lot. It's a lot of coverage. He also does a really good job when he rolls and actually does have to play underneath zones. He is all coverage all the time. This is our all coverage team right here, or all coverage player right here.
Yeah.
Texas covered him, and it was partly due to Texas had to cover him up because they didn't believe in his tackling. 21.3% missed tackle rate this last year. Needs to bring that down overall for sure. I think Taff is just a solid day 2 player for a team that needs more coverage players. He can provide. And I think that he's good. I don't know that I think he can move into the first round, but he is a perfect piece for Texas right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see what he can do this year, coming back to, like I said earlier, a vaunted secondary group, and hopefully be able to carry that forward.
Right.
And like you said, he just needs to work on the missed tackles, but his coverage is amazing, and he comes out with highlights of big hits all the time. Some ending up on Twitter, debating targeting and all that kind of stuff, if you remember from the playoff game.
Absolutely.
But otherwise, guy's really fun. He was a Burlsworth semifinalist, which you explained that award earlier. So, always fun to see a success story like that, and hope he can continue to elevate himself.
Right, absolutely. The next guy is Bray Hubbard out of Alabama. Plays next to Keon Sabb, lower on the list. I should have put them next to each other, but I didn't, so we won't talk about them together. Big safety. This is a big safety right here. Damani Jackson, big corner. Well, you got another one. Here's a big safety. Last season was good. Last season was good experience for him, in my opinion. I think that he did a lot of good last season, both in the box and as a deep safety. Good open field tackler, athletic upside. Always finds the ball. Like he goes and he finds the ball. Can cover tight ends and erase them because he is that big safety, and he creates turnovers. Hubbard is a guy that I think will move up boards as the season goes on. I think that he was one of my dark horses, like ideas, but he is also ranked pretty high based on NFL consensus draft boards and stuff like that. I don't know that I would put him if I was like, projecting him, sure, I could put him where they have him, but right now he's probably much lower overall.
Sure.
And you have to do a little bit of both when you are when you're a draft guy, but I think that in that 60-ish range should be where he's at right now.
Makes sense. He's a fun watch too. He's had an 89.4 coverage rate, but also 73.1 rush defense, and then had the 16.7 missed tackle percentage. First real year playing full time. The year before that, he only had 4 total snaps. So definitely not your seasoned veteran by any means. But he should progress, take a leap forward, continue to build off the success he had this past year.
Yep. And then we got a pair of we have Duke.
Moores?
Sorry. Yeah, I was going to say a pair of Moores. Terry Moore out of Duke. He is going to play next to Chandler Rivers. Really like this Duke secondary. I really do. Really good, really lengthy athlete, capable tackler, extremely alignment versatile, chess piece type. I mean, he can do it all. And really good hands. When the ball's in the air, he goes and gets it. Moore has some great size, athleticism, and natural instincts. I think that this safety class is a very interesting one with a lot of different types of players. Terry Moore is a very interesting football player that I think that could rise really high up boards, or could be one of those guys that kind of stays where he's at and gets overlooked. So I really do like Terry Moore, and I hope that he has a great season this year because he could jump a lot of players. I have him as our 4th safety, which is much higher than a lot of other boards.
Yeah, Duke's kind of the opposite of the Clemson we talked about earlier. You just get to be on Clemson's roster and your draft stock immediately rises. Duke is almost the opposite of that. You're on Duke and it's like,
naturally
what?
drops.
Who's this Duke guy? Why would I watch him? But, with Terry Moore and Chandler Rivers and then Duke getting Darian Mensah, they're actually going to be a really fun team to watch this year.
Yeah.
So
and they could win some games.
Don't watch Duke in general. I would highly recommend you check out some games this year because it's going to be really interesting one way or another.
They went 9-3 last year, right? So they were
with
good
Malik
last year.
Murphy, and you could argue Darian Mensah is an upgrade to
he
that
is,
too.
in my personal opinion. Yeah, no, I agree with you. So I think that the Duke Blue Devils are an interesting non-basketball or basketball good team, if that makes sense.
Basketball blue blood trying to make it in football.
In football, exactly.
Well, shoot, and then North Carolina, their rival, gets Bill Belichick. So
yeah, and they're going to be good too. Why not?
Getting all weird.
The next team is the next guy is Rod Moore out of Michigan. Unfortunately, Moore had to miss the whole season with the torn ACL. Yep. And he was the safety dark horse last season, so I was high on him. He's just a smooth operator. Never flustered or uncomfortable, good backpedal and breaks, anticipates throws really well, and just baits the quarterback. And he's also a good tackler in space. So he was one of the top 3 coverage safeties in the class last year, but he didn't play. So it is what it is. The next guy is Bud Clark out of TCU. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry, Bud Clark did not make the list. Apologies. He was the next guy I watched. So he didn't make the list. The next guy is Isaiah Nwankpia. I don't know exactly if that's right. Him and his teammate Ahmad Moses out of SMU. This is the bigger of the 2 safeties. Isaiah is the bigger of the 2 safeties, capable of playing closer to the line of scrimmage. Made a lot of tackles this last season, but he still had a 17.3% missed tackle rate. I don't think he has the athletic upside to be a highly ranked prospect. He is a good college football player. High motor, willing tackler, coverage versus tight ends. I just don't know that it will translate. Ahmad, though, I do believe will translate. I think he is a little bit better, more athletic. He's a fluid athlete, good mover. Moses is the guy that is going to be asked to play the heavier coverage of the 2. Also gets the tougher assignments in coverage. Does a good job running the alley, and but he's also another subpar tackler, 17.3 missed tackle rate, and so has NFL capabilities. But I just think he's probably a day 2, day 3 fringe type of player, in my opinion.
Yeah, SMU is really loaded up on defense. It'll be really cool to see how they continue to build off of last year, which most people kind of saw as a shocker coming into the year for them to almost win the ACC and probably should have.
And brought back their quarterback. They have their quarterback.
And they have Kevin Jennings. So if you're
wasn't the starter.
Yeah, which was strange.
Yeah, Preston Stone started over him.
Right. And then, but then they did the whole flip-flop, and then Jennings eventually won, and then Stone transferred, and then they wanted to use him in the playoff, and it got super weird. But if you're a CFP 25 player, 26 coming out soon, SMU is really fun to use if you like to use the smaller, not the high tier 1 guys. SMU is a really fun one. You can beat a lot of teams with because they just have insane athletes, at least for the video game.
Yep. The last guy on this list is Keon Sabb out of Alabama. Sabb was on last year's video, missed second half of the season with an injury, so he's coming back. He's a strong deep coverage player, plays deep to short really well, good eye discipline, really rangy player in the back end. He and Bray Hubbard is your typical strong safety, and you have Keon Sabb who's your free safety. Plays more over the top coverage and stuff like that. Highly athletic, quick and fast length. Really like this Alabama secondary, honestly. I really do. 3 guys on this video alone, that's really good to see. And I think Sabb is a solid safety, but not a wow guy, if that makes sense. So I think that there's some upside, but I don't know if he will be able to push into higher rounds. I think he's probably a 4th rounder, but I would love to get him in the 4th round, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he had some inconsistency last year, but overall high expectations. He is coming off a broken foot. From all the reports I've read, though, is that's healing fine, and he's on track to play the full year this year. So assuming he does that, then I agree. Alabama will, as usual, have a very good secondary.
Right. Let's talk about the last guy, South Carolina. Jalen Kilgore. This guy was actually very surprising to me because I did not know who he was until I started doing this. And I was looking for a dark horse, and I was like, I don't like any of these guys. Let me go watch some more guys. And I watched Jalen, and I was like, whoa, who are you? And then I really dug in.
Yeah.
Not your prototypical safety. We're going to talk, we're like, when we talk about the guys on this podcast, they're normally guys that play cover one and play deep. And, he doesn't do that. He's mostly a nickel or a big safety.
Yep.
2023 freshman All-American snaps by year. 2023, he was a nickel 308 times, in the box 219, and then deep 198. So he played everything. This year, he only played 31 snaps and in deep coverage. He's not a corner, though, because he only played 9 coverage snaps at corner. So he's more of a safety type, playing nickel. This is the best part. 6'2", 219 pounds. He is an extra linebacker. His strength and his power shows up. He's competitive. I love to see that. And he really challenges tight ends and slot receivers. His athleticism might be, for his size, like we were talking about Sonny Styles earlier. Like this is the same idea of Sonny Styles playing safety and not moving down to linebacker. Truly playing nickel, of course, is kind of like moving down to linebacker, but like play, you know what I mean? But like he has that, he is an extra linebacker, but he's a good coverage player also. And I love to see that. His athleticism is insane. He's a playmaker. He had 5 interceptions this last year, and he's the main punt returner for the team. Like, he is legit. And I think you have Nicky Manwari and you have this guy next to each other. Like, the athleticism you have together at the safety position is insane. I think Jalen Kilgore will go overlooked because he's not your prototypical safety prospect. I think he'll end up as our number 2 or number 3 safety in this class. I think he could be a first rounder, and that would not surprise me in the slightest. And no one is talking about this man. He is a top-notch athlete, good player. I'm excited.
South Carolina and Shane Beamer just keep finding these freak athletes.
Stud.
Underrated, underviewed, underutilized, whatever you want to call it. And then they go to South Carolina and absolute studs. So I completely buy the hype. If just saying he's a nickel and at South Carolina, my boxes are checked already. We're good. Okay. Go ahead and call it good. But no, cool. He is really good. He had 5 picks and 5 pass deflections, along with 48 total tackles. So obviously he's done well. He's got great size, like you were mentioning. So very versatile guy.
Yeah, he's going to be one of those guys that we're trying to figure out where to rank. Mike Sanderstill, a couple of years ago, he was a nickel for Michigan. And I was like, he's got to be top 50. I just don't know what to do with him. So I put him at number 50. And I wish I would put him higher because he's played really, really well for Washington. And I wanted to bet on him. I just didn't know how. Now I'm going to, obviously, as we go through this podcast, I'm going to be a little bit more like bullish on what I believe and who I want. But yeah, so this is a guy where I'm going to be like, I could see him going to Buffalo at 31 and not surprising me. Because if they current odds, they are the number 31 pick.
Sure.
So, that is our video though. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We are actually completely done with all the position rankings. So if you haven't watched any of the other ones, please go do that. We've talked about every position at this point, and very exciting series for me, obviously. I mean, shoot, this is my favorite thing to do. We're going to get into some of the things Dustin loves doing, talking about college football coming up pretty soon. We will have a 2026 way too early draft video next week, and then we will start talking about every single conference and projecting all their schedules and seeing where we think they'll end up. Then we'll be doing top 25s. We'll be doing the college football playoffs way too early, and then it'll be season. And so lots of college stuff coming up, and then also NFL stuff. Cam is doing a great job with his stuff. So we're just going to keep trekking it on as much football as we can.
Absolutely. It's the most fun time of the year that's not actual football being played time.
Oh, stop. No. I think the best time of the year, no football being played, is not in June or July when there's no other sports being played. Man, oh my gosh, there's nothing on TV right now. So
I had to see if I could slide it by. It was worth it. It was worth a try.
No. College Football 26 will come out though, and Dustin will have no time to do this podcast. So he will be missed, but no.
I'll upload. We appreciate. I'll figure out how to upload and record things. I don't know how to do it, but I'm sure it can't be that difficult.
You can figure it out. But we do appreciate y'all hanging out with us, and we will see y'all on the next one.
Thank y'all very much for joining.